government, which will not send dignitaries to the games. In Washington, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi decried China's human rights record, but says athletes should focus on their sports instead of speaking. And for his role in the death of Ahmaud Arbery, a black man in Georgia, now plans to stand trial on federal hate crime charges. An attorney for Greg McMichael now says in a legal filing that McMichael has backed down from plans to plead guilty in the federal case. His son, Travis, is scheduled to appear in federal court this morning. This is AP News. Many businesses are making the switch to a 4-day work week because of the pandemic.
The last 2 years have forced workers and businesses to think out of the box. New mom Sarah Ray is head of business development at California's Volt Athletics. 3-day weekends work for her.
I have a day dedicated to errands. I have a couple of days
I always try to find a little
family
something
and relaxation without the stress of chores hanging over my head.
San Francisco e-commerce company Bolt made the switch to a 4-day work week in October.
You know, it's interesting to see Facebook take this hit. Hey, everybody, how you doing?
It really is about work.
Very interesting. But, you know, I wonder how much deplatforming, how much of a role that is played in this.
Waste our energy.
You know,
To encourage 4-day work weeks,
you know, when you start cutting down, when you start cutting people, because the whole idea, at least we thought, of Facebook was to let people speak, right?
And I'm Rita Foley.
And I guess I'm just so accustomed to just having grown up the way that I have with a father who was so controversial, if you will. You know, I'm accustomed to please some anything not short of death. I mean, death threats, all of that. I mean, all that comes with it, you know. And my parents said, you know, and
remains closed.
This is what happens. So, you know,
burning well over.
You know, my brother is going to be looking at running for Congress. I think he's going to announce next week. And so he's gotten some really nasty phone calls. It happens. If you're in this space,
there's traffic getting by in the right lane.
That is the way it works. I'm not saying it's right. I am saying, though, don't complain.
The 2 right lanes. It's 23 minutes, so
get out
to downtown.
But if you're going to open up something that essentially has become a public utility, which is what Facebook has become, then
did you know that doctors use Mucinex?
You know,
That's
like
right.
what they're doing
Mucinex
with
is the number
Spotify,
one
with
OTC brand
Joe
doctors
Rogan.
trust for themselves and their families. When
I
you
disagree
have
with him
chest
being here. I'm like,
congestion, you need
shut
a medicine
up.
that's effective and
You know,
long-lasting.
you don't have the
So
right
with
to
cold
do
and flu
that.
season upon us, why would
If you
use
disagree with him
anything
being
else?
there, then,
Mucinex
you know, just
12-hour DM extended release
outperform
bilayer
him.
tablets allow for immediate and extended
He has an
release,
audience.
relieving
Let
cough
them
and
say
chest
what they're going to
congestion for
say.
12
And then, you know,
hours.
eventually,
Grab
if something
Mucinex
is
and put
really
yourself
toxic,
back
guess
in
what?
control. Use its
They get
directed
drummed out in the
action.
public space anyway. You know, I mean, but you don't want to drive conversations underground. Pastor. That's what they're doing. And that to me is very dangerous. All these conversations that they're driving underground, I am like, oh,
30 times what the average worker made.
you guys.
Right now, the number is between 200
the conversations that you all driving underground, that is what's unsettling to me.
11 to 2, right here on WCPT 820.
It's not easy being the one everyone counts on to keep the facility running.
And that is
no
what
matter
they're
the weather
doing.
or supply
They're
chain
driving a
hiccup.
lot of these conversations way underground, and that, thank you so much. Paul, next time, do me a favor, try to give me a minute and then 30,
taking
okay?
control of everything.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
We're here, experienced branch staff at over 250 locations, so you get the product you're looking for.
15.
Call
Thank you.
Grainger.com or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
You're listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta say, let's change the world. I am breathing.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. It's a joy to be with you today. Happy Friday, everybody. For those of you who are going to get a couple of days off, you certainly do deserve it. Take your time. Enjoy yourself, even if you work through the weekend, as I do. Do something nice for yourself. I'm Santita Jackson, coming to you from WCPT, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station. Indeed, we inherited the mantle of Air America. That's what we used to be, but now we're Chicago's progressive talk, and we are all over the world. And I want you to join my morning stars and my AM 950 radio family up in Minneapolis, St. Paul. Hey, Chad, and everybody, and Sounds of Blackness. I love you, Mr. Hines. Everybody, sending everybody much love today. I want you to call me at 773-763. 9278 773 763 9278. And I also want you to meet me on my YouTube channel, the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Thank you, Keith, for getting over there today. My boy Keith flew it up there in New York City. And Daryl, if you can, get on over to my Facebook page and meet Linda. She was there first, everybody. Hannah and Francis and all of you and everybody, please, Keith, Francis, Hannah, everybody, Hannah from South Carolina, let us not be fooled. Please like and share. And you, of course, Daryl is from Columbus, Ohio. Like and share, everybody. Please like and share and continue to tell people about the show. And please, if you want to meet me on Facebook, go to the Santita Jackson and Friends page. That is my page, Santita Jackson and Friends. Well, all right. Of course, we've got to talk about Jason Van Dyke today. He is the Chicago police officer, the former Chicago police officer, who was convicted of killing 17-year-old Laquan McDonald. He was convicted, and we thought he was going to serve some time. He's getting out after 3 years with good behavior. What do you think about that? Many are calling on the Justice Department, the NAACP, Congressman Bobby Rush, Reverend Jesse Jackson, Rainbow Push Coalition. So many people are calling, so many people and groups and people of goodwill are calling on the Justice Department to intervene and investigate him. Now, in 2014, when all of this was revealed to the public, the DOJ was investigating Jason Van Dyke. What happened to that investigation? Why wasn't he charged, given federal charges? What happened to that investigation? We've got a lot to unpack today, and so we will be doing that on the Santita Jackson Show. And what about these booster shots? Many Americans have not gotten them, and it's proving to be a problem. It's proving to be a problem. They are not getting booster shots, and the question is why? The question is, should you? Could you? And with more and more places requiring you to be fully vaccinated, I mean, how are you going to navigate all of that? So let's talk about it on the Santita Jackson Show with Dr. Shanita Knighton and Dr. Deborah Furholden, if we can get a hold of her today. Paul, make sure you try and call her on her home number because, after the storm where she lives in Michigan and Flint, they lost power. So her mobile phone was out. So for those of you who were wondering where your favorite Dr. Deb was yesterday, that's what happened. So everybody, let's get right to it. And you know what? I want you to meet me tomorrow. I think my brother Jonathan is going to be running for Congress. Yes. And so we're going to be having a meet and greet tomorrow at 82nd and Princeton, 8237 Princeton at 12 o'clock. I hope you will meet us over there tomorrow. It ought to be a really interesting thing. Look, all of this has been a surprise to me. Yes, it has been, because I certainly did not expect Congressman Bobby Rush to be retiring. I mean, I just, some people you expect they're the furniture in your room, right? And so there's been a lot of people who've thrown their hats in the ring, and I've started calling, just so that you know, the people who are running, many of whom are my dear, dear friends. And I've called them, and they know that they have a home on this show, clearly. If my brother decides to throw his hat into the ring, and that will not be official until next week, of course I will support him, of course. But I also feel a responsibility to have all of the candidates speak here. That's fair. And they're all good people. And whoever wins, and it's not predetermined who's going to win, whoever wins, the first congressional district will be well served. And that makes me feel very, very good. So let us go on. I hope you'll meet me at the meet and greet for Jonathan Jackson tomorrow from 12 to 3, at 82nd and Princeton, 8237 South Princeton. Of course, I will be posting it on my page. So let's get right to it before we get some good news from Pastor Tisha Williams. Oh boy, I can't wait to hear what she has to say. I know Betty can't either. She's always waiting. When is she coming on? What? She's going to be here right now. Everybody, let's get to some of these headlines in Chicago. We're going to have a high of 24 degrees above zero today. 24 degrees above zero. Yay. And then in Minneapolis, St. Paul, 10 degrees above zero. Sorry, everybody. It's just cold. It's cold. And, Groundhog Day said we're going to have 6 more weeks of this, and who knows, but we're going to have snow showers in Chicago and in Minneapolis, St. Paul. In the NBA, the Timberwolves were triumphant over the Pistons, 128-117. And, well, the Bulls fell to the Raptors. The Raptors 127, the Bulls 120. America's economic recovery is about to go into reverse, according to White House officials. They're bracing for a weak January jobs report, which we talked about with Dr. Max Wolf yesterday. More than 300,000 jobs, everybody. What is going there? Speed bumps in the road. They say it's due to Omicron, but we were having problems before the pandemic. How are we going to get out of this? The leader of ISIS was killed yesterday during a U.S. counterterrorism raid in northwest Syria. According to press reports, he killed himself and his family after detonating a bomb as U.S. forces approached his compound, according to Biden administration officials. So, everybody, in Ukraine, U.S. officials say Russia is planning to stage a fake attack. This gets more fantastical by the day, by Ukraine in order to justify an invasion. Pentagon Press Secretary John Kirby said that the U.S. believes that the Russian government is creating a very graphic propaganda video that would depict an attack by Ukrainian military or intelligence forces that would include corpses, actors depicting mourners, and images of destroyed locations. And reporters, for their portion, asked for evidence. They said that's classified. I really want evidence of that. The Winter Olympics has already begun, but now they are having their opening ceremonies. The Winter Olympics in Beijing begin today, and excitement is building around the world. It's going to be fantastic. I can't wait to see it. Opening ceremonies will kick off today, although the games, as I just shared, began a couple of days ago. About 3,000 athletes will be competing in 15 disciplines across 109 events through February 20th. And politics, of course, have dominated the games, as they always do. But everybody, let's wish all of the athletes from all over the world our very best. Good news on the vaccine front. There was a major breakthrough. South African scientists have created a close replica of Moderna's mRNA-based coronavirus vaccine without any assistance from the U.S. pharmaceutical giant, a development that could have massive implications for the fight against global vaccine apartheid, as it's being called. The scientists have said, quote, "We were not intimidated because mRNA synthesis is a fairly generic procedure." In partnership with the World Health Organization, researchers at the South African company Afrigen Biologics used the sequence of Moderna's vaccine, which was reverse engineered by Stanford scientists and published online last year, to produce an mRNA shot of their own. Good for them. Did you know that restaurant owners got 30 times more federal COVID aid than workers? Yeah, this is according to a report from One Fair Wage and the Food Labor Research Center at the University of California at Berkeley. Restaurant owners got 30 times more federal aid than COVID aid than their workers. You can't make this stuff up. Oh, Pastor Tisha Williams, you're on your way to Chicago. Yay! How are you?
Yes. I'm well. I'm trading one cold area for another.
I know. Look. I know. I know. Coming, but girl, you better be wrapped up because it is cold here. It is truly a winter. We're having a real Chicago winter.
It's been a while here too. We haven't had true winter, and so we're due. So can't complain.
Well, it's good to hear your voice today.
It's good to hear yours. Good morning, everybody. I hope everyone is doing well. So what if I were to tell you guys that January 17th is an official holiday? No, that's not my birthday, but January 7th is officially known as Ditch the Resolutions Day. Can you imagine that there is actually a day set aside where it is predicted that people will ditch their resolutions? I have to be honest with you, Santita, I've never really been a fan of resolutions. I found them to be very difficult to keep and to maintain and stay true to. And here's why. The truth is, most of us create bad resolutions. We just don't do resolutions well. We have all the great intentions in the world, and yet we fall short. And the reason is because we say what we're going to do, but we never develop a plan or a strategy in order to do it. And guess what? Saying you're going to do it is not enough. Saying you're going to lose 10 pounds is not enough. You have to create a plan of how you're going to lose those 10 pounds. Are you going to eat right? Are you going to get a trainer? Are you going to go on YouTube every day and follow a workout plan? What's your plan for losing the 10 pounds? Most people decide at the start of the year, I'm going to start smoking, and that's great. But smokers are 4 times more likely not to quit smoking because they don't have a plan in place, but not only a plan, but a plan after the plan. Because once we find out something doesn't work the first time, that's when we quit. And we don't have any auxiliaries in place. People say, I'm going to spend more time with my family in the new year. And that's great. But what are you doing in order to support that? Are you shifting your schedule around? Are you participating in Bring Your Kids to Work Day? How are you going to spend more time with your family? So the reality is we create bad resolutions because we just resolve, but we never put the resources or the work behind it. So here's what I suggest. You guys want to know my suggestion? I say ditch the resolutions and start creating projects. I believe that life could be more productive if you focus on 4 projects versus resolution. So here are my ideas for the projects that you need to have in your life in order to have a productive life. The first of all, everyone should have a personal project. So when we talk about losing weight, guess what? That's a personal project that you can put in place. You should have a project that is personal. Here's the great thing about personal projects. It's only something you can do for you. No one can go to the gym for you. And as much as I want to send people to my trainers and sleep in, no one can go to the gym for me. No one can learn a foreign language for you. No one can complete a book list for you. Your personal project is just for you. The next project you need to have is a professional project. This is where we talk about work and career goals. Some of you go to work sour-faced every single day because the person in the office to you is getting promoted. But you know why they're getting promoted? Because they had a professional project plan. They decided they were going to get the certifications necessary in order to get the promotion. So what professional project can you commit to today? Maybe your boss is counting on you to do better so that you might elevate in your professional position. The next thing you have to have is a profitable project. Somebody say good things come to those who hustle while they wait. Everybody should have a side hustle. What are you good at? Are you a great baker? Are you good with fashion? Are you good with numbers? Maybe your professional project should be to get certified as an accountant so you can make it a profitable project. Come on, it's tax season. What are you good at? What have you always loved to do as a child? And how can you translate that into making a little bit of money? Everyone should have a profitable project. And lastly, guess what? This is my favorite one. Everybody needs to have a passion project. I love passion projects because passion projects are all about fun or something that you're dedicated to, something that rings in your heart. So a passion project, like a personal project, is something you can only do for you. Your passion project might be to collect coins. Maybe you're looking for that Maya Angelou coin, right? Your passion project might be your little garden outside. Maybe you want to cultivate some cucumbers and some vegetables. Maybe your passion project is to work with a nonprofit or volunteer at a nonprofit. Maybe your family has suffered from cancer and you want to pour some of your efforts into that in order to give back to those who have helped you in that season. Whatever your passion is, make it a project and focus on that. Again, it's only something you can do for you, and it's something that brings you true joy. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to ditch the resolutions and focus on project management, because here's the good news. You are and you will always be your most precious and important project. So make it personal, make it professional, make it profitable, and put some passion in it. And that's the good news.
Amen to that. I love that. You know, my father told me that when I was really struggling in college. Oh, yeah. When I was really struggling in college, because, you know, I'd been pushed in one direction, you know, to go into medicine, you know, because I've always done well with numbers and science, but I did exceedingly well with English. But my mother really wanted me to go into a field that was much more objective. She said, law is very subjective. I don't like it. I don't want you to do it. So I wanted to please my mom, but I was just desperately unhappy. And, you know, my father said, honey, what is wrong? I don't know how you go from being this driven student to just really just wandering from, you know, from major to major, and you're so unhappy. That was what was driving him crazy. Just like, and he called me like just about every day when I was in school because he was worried, you know, and so, and I was eating, and it was like, oh, I was just really, and he said, honey, find your passion. What is it? Whatever it is, he said, follow that. He said, your gifts will make way for you. God gave you a fire about something, and you're supposed to do that. And you'll never feel like you're working. It took me a long time to get to it and not feel guilty about it, you know?
That's right.
And so I feel so grateful. I mean, I really needed to hear that this morning. And, you know, my mother meant well because as a woman, she wanted me to be independent. But my father wanted me to be independent as a woman, too. He said, never be beholden to a man or his money. Don't do it. You know, he said, I didn't raise you. He said, marriage is not going to be your achievement. It will be something you do. He said, I didn't raise you to be someone's appendage. I raised you to be who God wants you to be, whoever that is.
Right.
Oh, he said some great things. But, you know, I got great things from both of them. So, but everybody, your passion, that's it. That's it. And that's one of the things that happened in the pandemic. People, as I bring on Dr. Shanina Knight, an infection preventionist, registered nurse, our dear friend, you know, and she loves listening to you. We all do. You know, she's pursued her passion. First person in her family to come out of high school, pastor, and then just became a registered nurse, PhD, scholar at Case Western Reserve University. And she is so passionate about preventing infection. Prevention Saves Lives is her website, everybody. And of course, her handle is at Hey Dr. Nina, at Hey Dr. Nina. You can't miss her. So, you know, let's pivot. Let us pivot. You know what? Because I'm concerned because, you know, we've had more deaths from COVID this year than we had in 2020. You know, it's just like, I mean, in 2021, more people passed away. So it's like, okay, something is not going on because we have more vaccines. We were waiting for that, right? And now we're being told that we need to be boosted. Now, to be fair, you said, Dr. Knighton, that we can't vaccinate our way out of this. You did say that. And now the stories, Pastor Williams, they're coming out. People are now saying, scientists are now saying, you can't vaccinate your way out of this. And now more and more Americans are not getting the vaccine. I mean, more and more are not. More than half of the eligible people eligible to be boosted have not been boosted. What is going on, Dr. Knighton? Dr. Knighton, are you there? Okay, well, let's get her up, Paul. Let's make sure that she's still there. But I want to know, have you been boosted or are you reluctant to be boosted? More and more Americans are saying that I've taken enough shots, 3, 4. What am I supposed to do? But what does it mean to be fully vaccinated? Now it means that you have to be boosted. Are you reluctant? Are you tired? 70% of Americans, according to the Monmouth poll, have said that I'm over COVID. I don't want to talk about it anymore. And you're seeing more and more people who are tossing the masks. but there are more and more restrictions for people. If you're not fully vaccinated, you're not admitted to a lot of places. I wonder how long these restrictions will last if more and more people refuse to get fully vaccinated, because now your 2 shots are not enough. Now you must be boosted. So you tell me what you think. 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. Do we have Dr. Knighton up yet?
No, but I'm on.
Oh, my goodness, we got you. Hey.
Yeah, I'm on, guys. But okay, I'll go with it.
No, I didn't know that you were there. No, I'm so glad that you're there. Yeah. Okay, well, I've got 2 minutes, and they belong to you. We're so glad, because I didn't even know to call you at home yesterday. And then Dr. Knighton said, call her at home, and then we couldn't get through. And then I tried to call you after the show. I wanted to know if you had some heat, what was going on. Oh, I'm glad to hear your voice this morning.
Dr. Deb.
Oh, my goodness. Well, you are all there, but I have a tight 2 minutes, everybody, before I have to go to break. Dr. Deb, most Americans, more than half of eligible people who are eligible to get the boosters, are not getting them. And you heard Dr. Fauci yesterday making an appeal for people, go get your boosters. But people are not doing it.
I think most people now have realized that, we say we're not going to vaccinate our way out of this. It's not going to boost our way out of this.
Okay.
I'm under mandate.
Okay, Dr. Verholden. Okay, we need to get you in a good spot. Dr. Verholden, now speak.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but not clearly. You know what? We're going to work this out on the other side of the break. We're going to work this out. Just stay right there. Because you might be, look, we're just going to get you queued up because we want to hear from you. Why are Americans not getting their COVID-19 booster shots? What's going on? In the meantime, I hope that you will join me at this meet and greet for Jonathan Jackson tomorrow from 12 to 3 at the Bordeaux establishment at 8237 South Princeton. It's going to be great. And of course, it's hosted by Friends of Jonathan Jackson. Looks like he's going to toss his hat into the ring and run for Congress next week. Yay! But I've invited all of the people who are running for that congressional seat. I'm going to reach out to the candidate who was endorsed by Congressman Rush. Everyone who's running, of course, will have space on this show. Of course, I support my brother. There's no question. But all of the people who are running are great candidates. And the 1st Congressional District, as I said earlier, will be well served if any of them win. Of course, I have my preference, but I want to be fair. That is my responsibility here, and I plan to live up to it. Back with more of the Santita Jackson Show in just a few minutes.
You can change the world.
Okay, Dr. Verholden, let's hear you now. Dr. Verholden? Okay, Dr. Knighton, let me hear you.
I'm here.
Okay. Dr. Verholden? Is she still on the line, Paul?
Sorry. No, I'm here. Can you not hear me?
No, not clearly. You're going in and out. It's a poor connection.
All right, let me move somewhere else.
Yes. Just keep talking to us because, we'll catch you. Dr. Verholden, keep talking to us so we can catch you in a good spot. Yeah, that's why I really try to take care of these things before we get on the air, so we don't have to work this out on the air.
Yeah.
Okay, it's still a poor connection. Just keep talking and walking, so we can get you in the right space, so we can hear you.
It's crazy because we got snow.
Hold on 1 second. Keep talking, Deborah.
Can you hear me now?
It's not a matter of hearing you. Keep talking because we can hear you, but you're going in and out. Keep talking.
There's got to be something wrong with the line because I was going in and out, and it was my signal. I have all the bars, and you guys are going in and out for me.
Yeah, are you on a computer line?
No, I'm on my cell phone. I'm on what I'm always on.
Okay, is your landline doable?
Yeah.
Okay, Paul, call her on her landline, please.
Okay.
Everything's disrupted because of these storms, Deb. I mean, You know, it's a mess.
Yeah, it's like,
So he's calling you on your home line, which I'd wanted him to do because I thought that would be the workable line today. So just answer that and we'll get you up. Okay? And so I'm going to take this to 45. So everybody at 44, 43, I need to be pivoting out, okay? Because we've got to cover this, the release of this, of Jason Van Dyke, this police officer who killed his child all these years ago. Okay, Lisa, I'm so glad that you're doing well. I'm so glad that you and your sons are doing well. Bless your hearts. But a lot of people are not
Dr.
getting.
Verholden's back.
Okay, me,
yep, I'm here. Is
that's
that
it.
better?
Oh, that's it. We couldn't hear you before.
Okay.
It was going in. That's how you were sounding. Okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. That's how, because I can hear you. Like that. So just be conscious of that. Okay? Yeah, no, it's just, you just needed to know that. That's all. You just needed to know that. And now you do. So, with these storms, all bets are off anyway. So, okay.
Coming back in 30.
Okay. Okay, so here we are. We're coming up. And so everybody, it's 32. And so we're going to have about 12 minutes here, okay?
Sure.
Okay. But wrap it into the NICE program, okay? In NICE, I don't know. I keep wanting to call it NICE. But the in NICE program, wrap it into that, okay? That's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to kick it to you. Okay?
Sure.
Okay, very good. Okay.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. Of course, we're going to be talking about Laquan McDonald and Jason Van Dyke and his release. But did you know that Tamir Rice's family were trying to get the feds to look into his killing? And the DOJ just contacted them a few days ago and said that the case is closed. Wow. I wonder if that's going to happen in the Laquan McDonald case. Anyway, we are talking with Dr. Deborah Verholden and Dr. Shanina Knighton. Now that we have Dr. Deb back, she, of course, has survived the storm. She and baby India and Jordan and the whole family. Praise the Lord. But we couldn't get her yesterday because the power was out. And, of course, her mobile phone was gone. And there you go. But now we have her on her landline today. We're so glad that you and Dr. Knighton are with us today. Let's get right to it. You know, there is a program that I'm working with you on, the NICE program from Michigan State University. We're trying to help people to understand. I did not know that that adults had a vaccine schedule, also hepatitis, a lot of things. I mean, you're seeing more and more people who have these illnesses. Well, we're still in the midst of this COVID pandemic. And while many people are now asking the question, now scientists are asking Dr. Deb, do we not need a new vaccine? Because this vaccine that we have is now 2 years old. Well, we're finding out that the CDC say that new studies show that the Pfizer and Moderna booster shots offer strong protection against Omicron. Okay, and that's great. They're highly effective at preventing hospitalizations. But more than 53% of eligible Americans haven't gotten those booster shots, and it seems like they're not moving, Dr. Deb. And you're not considered fully vaccinated now. 1 shot won't do it. 2 shots won't do it. It's 3, maybe 4. What do you make of these new numbers? I heard Dr. Fauci talking about it yesterday.
I'm not completely surprised, right? Because we told people, in the beginning, I understand, and Dr. Knighton gets very frustrated because she's like, this is the, if you read what the FDA approved this for, it was never approved to prevent infection. But that's not how it was pushed. We figured out when we started having so many breakthrough cases that we would have to talk to people about, preventing severe illness, reducing the risk for hospitalization. But in the beginning, I don't think we did a very good job of that. I think we somewhat oversold the vaccine. So now here comes the world of boosters, where it's like, okay, you can't just get vaccinated, you got to get boosted also. And there are some people who've had their second boosters already. So people are just wondering, how many more shots do I have to get? And then they're also wondering, when is the next generation of vaccines coming? I myself have still not been boosted. Why? Because I was an infection I had infection on December 1st. And my university has required that everybody get boosted by February 1st. And I asked for a medical exemption. I haven't heard whether or not they've approved it, but I'm not getting it before March 1st. Because I said, I know I've got at least 90 days of what they call super immunity because I was vaccinated and I did recover. So I don't have, to me, add value right now. I want to wait till my 90 days wanes. And I had Omicron. That's super immunity against the one that's out right now. That is, predictably my, personal way, and I'll get boosted. Somebody to force it.
Let me ask you this, Dr. Deb, because see, you are a high-ranking official at one of the top universities in the world. I mean, you're really kind of at the top. What happens with workers? Just the average rank-and-file worker who's in that position, who can't go, say, to the university president and say, hey, not only I haven't done this yet, but I mean, you've got the scientific credentials, really, to back up your, your stance.
I'm convinced that this will be a great moment for the C.K. Hoffers and those of this era because, they talked about this great resignation. We have all these people. For example, we've lost 20 staff people at our local health department. You know why they left? Because the State Department of Health and Human Services has a massive need for employees, and they are allowing people to work 100% remotely. And they said, why would I work at the local health department when I can go work for the state and work at home every day? Our local health department refuses to let them telework. So people at the local health department go into the office every day. So they said, I'm out of here. You're going to see more of this people leaving their job and going to jobs that are a better fit for what they want, whether it be working at home, not having the jab forced upon them, or what have you. I think that's what we're going to see, and that's why so many people left their jobs in December, because more options are becoming available, and employers, I think, who are meeting people where they are. For me personally, don't get me wrong, I understand what the university is trying to do, but it's kind of ridiculous. I work at home. I don't go into the office. So if I actually even get this exemption, I have to join what's called the early detection program and test once a week. So I'm going to leave my house to go test myself at the building and drop it in a box when I'm at no risk to anyone but myself. I don't even work in the office. People have brought a sledgehammer to this problem, I think, trying to force people to get vaccinated. And I don't think it's not working. This isn't my opinion. The data are showing us it's not working. And the fear of losing your job, because there's so many jobs out here right now, people are like, fine, keep your job. Just go work over here. And that's what I think we're going to see more and more of. This is why the work that we're doing with the NNICE, I think, is so important. And it's the National Network to Innovate for COVID and Other Adult Vaccine Equity. I'm not trying to shove anything into anybody's arm. What we're trying to do is make sure that we deal with all of the barriers, impediments, or challenges that people might have to getting not just the COVID vaccine, but all of the adult vaccine schedule. India agrees. But all of the adult vaccine schedule. That is to empower people with good knowledge and information to make sure that they have the resources that they need to get vaccinated when they choose. We have some people who are using incentives. I want to be clear people about how incentives work. When President Biden said, just give them all $50 or give them all $100. Incentives have worked in healthcare, and we know this, right? But normally you are using incentives to get people to do something that they're already interested in. Right? Like we know if somebody wants to quit smoking, giving them incentives actually increases the chances that they'll be successful, that they'll show up for treatment, that they'll put the patches on, that they'll practice the strategies and things like that. Incentives were never, we don't even have research to talk about how you incentivize somebody for a behavior that not only they're not interested in, but they're a no to, that they have said, I don't want that. That almost feels like bribery. That's not incentivizing people. So we're not trying to deal with any of that kind of stuff. We're trying to make sure that there's fair play. Because guess what might happen? When a second-generation vaccine comes out that is more specific to the strains that are out now, people might want that. Who's going to get first crack at it, though? So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make sure that there's fairness and good access for everybody to vaccines on the adult vaccine schedule, and also raise people's awareness about what the actual adult vaccine schedule is, and that they are up to date on those things. Because unfortunately, many, if you're not seeing a primary care physician regularly, if you're not getting an annual checkup, there might not be somebody tending to it on the medical side. And if you're moving around with your primary care provider, your physician or your healthcare provider might not be attending to that. So we want to put those tools in people's hands and make sure that they know and can really be in charge of their own health in that respect.
Oh, hey, you know what, Dr. Knighton, I've got about 4 minutes left, really 3. Your thoughts about these boosters and just as people, they're not getting them. They're not getting them. The needle ain't moving. And there's COVID fatigue. That was the study that came out at the beginning of the week. 70% of Americans said, I'm over this.
Right. So it continues to, again, feed into what Dr. Deb mentioned, and that's just the fact that we're still having so many waxing and waning and changing guidelines that people are confused, and that goes into that COVID fatigue, meaning if you're telling people to move left today and then telling them to move right tomorrow, that's a problem. It was so much emphasis, let's hurry up and get these 2 doses or get this 1 dose and we'll be done with the pandemic and can get back to normal life. And we have to remember these have been the same patterns that happened when masks came around, when tests came around. If we can get everybody tested, we can get back to normal. If everybody's masked, guess what, guys? We're slowing the spread. We can get back to normal. Everybody get vaccinated. Once reach herd immunity, then we'll be good. Then it's everybody got to get vaccinated because it's a part of a mandate. So people are exhausted right now, and exactly what Dr. Dad said, it's a lot of people that work in work settings, that got their 1 dose or their 2 doses to be compliant with these policies before the federal court decided that it was unconstitutional or not okay. And now they're having to fill out exemption forms with their workplace because they're deciding not to get the booster, which means that they're right back in the same category with the unvaccinated. So this, to me, unfortunately, with us doing this division between the two, as she mentioned, is going to continue to cause more issues. And this is where we have to be careful about how we educate people. And then it's time that we also start evaluating if this is a situation of one size fits all. And that is my concern right now as we're looking at these vaccines and boosters, is are we taking the wrong approach by trying to get everybody vaccinated, opposed to really, truly understanding the health conditions of each individual and the health needs of each individual to see if it makes sense. Because just as I mentioned, just as the World Health Organization mentioned, we cannot boost ourselves out of a pandemic. We just cannot. This is not going to be the only bug that exists.
Well, I'll say this, Dr. Verholden, you get the last minute here. There's a Newsweek story, the headline, and the bulk of the story deals with the fact that, quote, the vast majority of vaccinated COVID patients in hospitals didn't have the booster dose. So it helps you to see how important the booster dose is. But so are the safety protocols. I mean, there's a disconnect here, Dr. Verholden, because, even when you've gotten the shots, you have to do the same thing that the unvaccinated have to do. You have to wear a mask. You need to wash your hands and be physically distanced from people. The last minute belongs to you, Dr. Verholden.
Yeah, I think you can almost think of the vaccine like a liner in your winter coat. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
It's an extra layer of protection, and I love the coats with the liners, right? I live in Michigan, and the weather changes here pretty fast. joke here. If you don't like the weather, just wait a minute.
Yes.
It changes real fast, even in the same day. And so I've learned from Michigan how to have layers of protection, and then you can take them on and off. The vaccine is going to be one important layer of protection, but it's not the end of it. It's not the end of it all. Imagine if you went out right now in Michigan and all you had on was your primer, but not the coat, not the gloves, pants.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So that's really how we have to think about this stuff. It's all about the layers of protection. And I think the kind of information that Dr. Knighton is really putting forward around how to prevent infection with more than just masking and distancing, but actually in your, physical space in your home, when you're out in the world, when you're at work, I think those things are important. So it's time for us to say, okay, and the stats haven't changed anything, and people aren't going to be, scared into shots. Like, we've passed that point. We passed that point. We had the clamoring to get the shots when they first came out, and now that is not what it is. So we've got to go back, I think, to the very beginning. Keep doing the work. And I've been saying this, and people are like, but that's going to take time, and we don't have the money. And I'm like, but if we don't do it, all we're doing is dragging this out. And lo and behold, we're exactly where I said we would be if we continue down this road. And you remember my early comment was, first the carrot, then the stick. And I think what's coming next is a bigger stick. Luckily, the Supreme Court intervened and sort of said, nope, I'm not going to go for it. We're not going to.
It's not going to work.
It hasn't stopped. Yeah, it hasn't stopped individual employers from implementing these things. And I don't think it ultimately will be the way that we get more shots in arms, because all that's going to happen is somebody's going to actually lose their job, and then they're going to sue, and then that'll set a precedent for employees that aren't able to do this.
Well, Justin, you know what?
And not only will they not be able to do it, if people can demonstrate damages as a function of being fired for not getting a booster shot by such and such a date and time, then I think other employers will, not use that strategy.
Absolutely. Well, they're going to have to. This is not what they're doing is not working. Bottom line. And if you're not talking about increasing people's baseline health, we've missed the whole boat here. So let's.
But won't we keep going? Yet we keep doing it.
Yeah, but that's the definition of insanity. It's like, this is insane.
Yeah.
It's not working. It's not working. It's not working. We're going to talk about this some more on Monday, because people are not getting these booster shots. And now Newsweek has a story, the vaccinated, if they don't have the boosters, they're in the hospital. So wait a minute. So you got the shots. Don't you have anything left in the tank? Oh, I don't know. But you know what, Dr. Depp, Dr. Verholden, and Dr. Knighton, stay right here, because we have got Reverend Jeanette Wilson before she has to run. She, of course, is at Rainbow Push, and, of course, the chair of Rainbow Push, attorney C.K. Hoffler. They're with us today because we've got a big case that we're dealing with. Jason Van Dyke, the former Chicago police officer, the then Chicago police officer, shot Laquan McDonald, Reverend Jeanette Wilson, Esquire, shot him, 16 times? Most of the times he was shot, he was on the ground. And when you saw that video footage, Reverend Wilson, you saw the smoke rising from this child's body, and no police officers moved to help him. I mean, it's just mind-boggling. And he got out in 3 years for good behavior. Reverend Wilson, what is this?
Well, I think, the state statute provides in Illinois that you get a day for good time. And he was moved to a prison where he was protected and would be provided with extreme safety, unlike other people found guilty of murder. They're just placed in the general population. The second thing is the judge in sentencing Van Dyke only sentenced him on one of the charges. On one of the counts, he did not decide to sentence him for each count of aggravated battery for each shot fired, which would have given him much more jail time. So you had a city elected judge deciding as judges have the discretion, state circuit court judges have the discretion to determine sentencing. And he gave him the lesser of all of the charges so he would get the least amount of time. Mm-hmm. And so I don't complain about him getting out early, because then we would have to say that any of the defendants who are in jail and who have good behavior could mm-hmm. not reduce the term of their sentence. Those are state statutes. That's a state law. We can change state law, but we at least need to know what it is.
But let me ask you this. Well, just very quickly. I mean, he was investigated. The feds were investigating him in 2014. What happened with that investigation?
They never completed the investigation. They never initiated federal charges against Van Dyke as they did in the Ahmaud Arbery case, and that's the challenge of the way this system works. The feds never said we have no findings, nothing. As you know, Van Dyke was never assigned to the scene. There were 10 of the officers there, and the federal charges should have looked at why did Van Dyke choose to act with 10 others who did not shoot Laquan at all. Why is it that there was this extreme cover-up by other officers and leaders in the police department at that time, and the sitting mayor? So he could have been indicted by the feds on charges of civil rights violation and under other federal statutes in addition to 1983. We don't know what happened with the feds. They didn't proceed with the investigation. They apparently didn't conclude it, and that's why we're pushing the U.S. Attorney to complete the investigation and charge Van Dyke federally. Okay,
well, Attorney C.K. Hoffler, the federal charges, what would they do now that he has already served time? I mean, I'm no lawyer. Is that like charging him again, or is this charging him separately?
Well, it would have to be charging. Oh, I'm sorry.
Separately. It would have to be charging him separately.
Okay. No, I'm just, for those of us who are not lawyers. No, it's okay. For those of us who are not lawyers.
Go ahead, CK.
Okay. First of all, good morning. Good morning, Reverend Wilson. She's someone who I admire and who has a great legal acumen. So you jump right on in at any time when I'm speaking.
No, I admire you. You're the greatest trial lawyer I know.
Well, you are so kind. You're so kind. But, Santita, they would be separate charges for this reason. I want to use the Ahmaud Arbery case as an analogy. In the Ahmaud Arbery case, those defendants were charged with various counts of murder and related charges. And they were convicted. One on 9 counts, one for 8 counts, one on 6 counts. That was in a state case. Now, in the federal case, the Justice Department came and was charging them for hate crime. That's completely separate. The underlying crimes were the same, meaning murder, but the hate crimes statute that's really a civil rights statute, if you will, because they're saying, yeah, you committed these crimes, but it was based on race, based on bias, some type of bias. And so if the Justice Department took another look at this case and determined that somehow when they may have looked at it in the beginning, they missed something in the pursuit of justice, then they would bring separate charges. It would have nothing to do with the state case, because they would bring separate federal charges based on federal statute. That's the beauty of this.
You know, Reverend Wilson, you, Rainbow Push, and just everybody in the activist community, and just so many people gathered yesterday in the cold, in the snow, protesting his release and really trying to push the feds to investigate, to charge him. Where are we with that? The last 3 minutes belong to you before you go over to Rainbow Push right away.
Well, the U.S. Attorney assigned to the Northern District of Illinois was not there to receive his letter, but he did call his office and indicate that he is willing to meet with the leadership team here to discuss his investigation and moving forward for federal charges. And so that's a positive. We're not going to prevent, at this point, the release of Jason Van Dyke. that is a fait accompli. It's going to happen. What we can do is see that he gets charged federally, and that's the push. We've met with our 2 U.S. senators who are also calling on the Justice Department to investigate and charge. And we've met with all of the members of the congressional delegation in Illinois. It is a travesty of justice for Jason Van Dyke not to have been charged with federal crimes, and for this sitting judge, circuit court judge, to have under-sentenced him, which is what happened.
Who is the judge? Who is the judge?
I forgot his name.
Okay.
I don't even think he's running for re-election.
You know, but this is why it's so important, Reverend Wilson, as we do voter education at Rainbow Push, that we know who the judges are. When we see that sheet of judges, the sheets with the judges, your eyes roll to the back of your head. You're like, hey, I'll just, choose somebody.
Well,
and that's not what you should do.
They put the judges at the end of the ballot. By that time, people are tired. That's the most important person you can vote for, because you're going to see a judge before you ever meet the president or the governor or the U.S. senator.
So where do we go from here? You see what happened with Tamir Rice. They closed the case. His family just got, at the end of last month, they just got a letter from DOJ saying, we're not going to pursue this case. The case is closed. 1 minute.
Well, all we can do is push the Department of Justice to initiate charges against Van Dyke. I mean, that's what we can do. The other thing is our state legislators have to begin to look at how do we reform this criminal justice system to remove the discretion that the circuit court judges have with regard to sentencing, and also we can clean up how we charge people with crimes. And so that's some legislative action, and that's why you have to know who your state reps are, and we have to begin to push them to change some of these archaic laws. We don't look at the criminal justice system until it's one of us that is impacted by the laws that exist. So we have to change the laws, and we can do that at the state level. As you know, we've tried to change laws with respect to what police can do in terms of their going into apartments for searches and to search homes. And the Anjanette Young case, that is not only is a police rules, but it's also, we have to decide how we want police to behave towards ordinary citizens. Mm-hmm. What kind of proof do they have to have? What kind of procedures should police be required to follow before they invade private homes?
Well, you know what?
So they have to be a chain of command.
I want you to come back on the show to talk about that, because if you get that knock on the door, I mean, what do? We just practically need to know, because, poor communities, you're vulnerable to that. And you don't know what your rights are.
Oh, absolutely.
And only mostly affluent people have a lawyer on speed dial. Reverend Jeanette Wilson, Esquire, brilliant, brilliant pastor. When will you be preaching? I got 10 seconds.
Every Sunday at 10:45, Maple Park, United Methodist Church. You can get us on YouTube or Facebook Live.
All right. She's also a pastor. She's got 10 jobs, everyone. We love you, Pastor. Pastor Jeanette Wilson. Let's going to continue this conversation about Jason Van Dyke. He's coming out of jail, everybody. He's coming home. Back in just a minute. Thank you, Reverend Wilson.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Oh, sending you much love.
All right.
It's so good to hear your voice, Reverend Wilson.
Yes, CK, we must talk. We got a lot of stuff we need to do.
We do.
Yeah.
I was hoping to be, I'll be there soon. I was hoping to be there sooner than later, but the weather has held me up, Reverend Wilson.
It's crazy, but you and I got to talk about a couple things as soon as you're available.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
All righty, dighty. We'll get everybody else up, and there we will go. Thank you,
Attorney
everybody.
Thatcher on the line.
I'm sorry? Paul, what did you say?
Attorney Thatcher is on the line.
Okay. Do you have the others? Okay. Are you
No,
just
I got
you,
his album still.
okay? No worries. You're gonna give me verbals, and then you're gonna send me text.
I could do that.
Okay. No, just let me know so I can introduce them, and they'll be there. I just need to know that they're there. Okay. Attorney,
Good morning.
how are you? I've got Attorney C.K. Hoffler on with you. How are you?
Good morning.
And how's that
I'm doing
Howardite
fine.
in the house? Love it. Oh,
Well, he's according to him living in heaven.
yeah, of course he is. Howard heaven. That's how that works. Yes. Oh boy. What dorm is he in? Or is he in
Doesn't
an
want any of my
apartment?
advice.
Is he in a dorm or is he in an apartment?
Yeah, he applied for a dorm, but because of the housing squeeze, they put him in a very nice apartment in College Park.
Whoa, really? They're in College Park now?
Yeah.
Because I
they've got
stayed.
shuttle.
Oh, and yeah, because they had well, there was on 16th Street, but then there was we had the same kind of arrangement because most Howard students do not live in a dormitory on campus. But I'm surprised that they've gone all the way out to College Park, but that makes sense.
Yeah, they've got regular shuttles running, so.
Oh yeah.
He's doing okay.
Oh yeah. We had those. We had those. We had those. Boy, oh boy. We had those. Great, 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 great times. Great times.
Reverend Dr. Yeri and Attorney Keith Lamar are on.
Okay, Attorney Lamar and Reverend Dr. Yeri, Esquire, how are you all?
Hey, we're doing great.
Okay, we have got Attorney Mark Fancher from the National Conference of Black Lawyers, and we have got your colleague, Dr. Yeri, excuse me, I was about to call you Reverend because you are a man of God, and I love that about you, Mark Fancher. We've got Attorney Hoffler, who is the immediate past president of the National Bar Association, the largest and oldest black bar association in the world. Reverend Dr. Todd Yeri, Esquire. If he gets another title, I think he just might sink into the sea, but I love it. I love it. I love it. And of course, he is a pastor. He's vice president of Rainbow Push, and he is now a practicing attorney. And Attorney Lamar, how you doing, Morehouse man?
I'm doing wonderful this morning.
Come on now. Howard woman, Morehouse man. Love it. Yay.
Oh, yeah, ACC love it here.
Come on, all up in this house. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. It's a funny thing because we really do stick together and we start looking out for each other when we get these jobs. I participated in a mini doc for a friend of mine who I'd not seen in a long time, but she and I pledged at the same time. So we're line sisters, but she's an AKA and I'm a Delta. And when she saw me, I said, because I don't look the way I looked in college, she said, oh boy, she grabbed the footage. She made a reel for me, and then she started shopping me at the networks. Just wonderful.
You need that, though.
Oh, absolutely. She was like, please, girl, I got you. And I said, I got you too. I love it, love it. My girl Annette, I love her. She's been my girl, and we pledged at the same time and got a lot of laughs in. You start giving each other food. Like, girl, I know you're hungry. Take this. Oh.
Yeah, similar story with my friends. We all crossed the same year. I'm a Sigma, but I have three of my other best friends. One crossed Q, one crossed Kappa, and the other crossed Alpha all the same semester.
And you meeting in corners. Hey, I got some food. Shh. No, I know it's just cheese. Just grab it.
Time to sleep.
That's right. Oh. Oh, man. We were dumped in the engineering building, and my line sister and I literally rolled out the car and rolled in a ball into, because we were not in this car. But honey, we ran. My father was having some luncheon, and we had these big pledge bags, and we went over there, stayed for a few minutes, and grabbed all the food off the buffet table. And my father said, no, they're not homeless children. They're pledging. And everybody just cracked up. Because, honey, we were wrapping that stuff up, jamming it in our bags so we could get it back to our line sisters so they could eat. Oh, boy. I'm going to have to call some of them today so I can get some laughs in. Everybody, I hope that you will meet me at the meet and greet for Jonathan Jackson Saturday, February 5th, 2022. It looks like he's going to toss his hat into the ring and run for Congress. And so it'll be from 12 to 3. 8237 South Princeton here in Chicago. I hope that you will meet a few of us there. We're going to be physically distanced from each other because we want to be careful. But it looks like he's going to do that. My baby brother, I love him so much. But as I shared with you earlier, I'm inviting all of the candidates onto this show.
15.
Because while I have my preferences, I want to be fair to everyone. And it really is a field of wonderful people. The 1st Congressional District of Illinois cannot lose
5 seconds.
with anybody who's running. Stay right there, everybody.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. I'm Santita Jackson. It's a joy to be with you today, Friday, February 4th, 2022. Hey, everybody. Let's talk about Jason Van Dyke and Laquan McDonald, and he is on his way out of prison. What do you think about that? He served 3 years, good behavior. And many people are saying that's not enough. We've got to have federal charges. There was a federal investigation launched in this case on him in 2014, but the federal investigation went nowhere. What's going on with that, everybody? What do you think about his release? What do you think about Tamir Rice? Tamir Rice, the young boy in Ohio, 12-year-old who was killed by the police. The Department of Justice just closed the books on that case this past week. His family just got a letter at the end of January. What do you think about that? I want you to meet my morning stars on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. And we're coming to you from WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station. We have inherited the mantle of Air America. That's who we used to be, but we've evolved into WCPT and AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. All my friends up there. So call me at 773 or text me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-9278, and call me. I want to hear your thoughts. And as we hear from this expert legal panel about the release of Jason Van Dyke in Chicago, we're going to have a high of 24 degrees. The snow showers have begun. Minneapolis, St. Paul, 10 degrees above zero. Snow showers. In the NBA, last night, the Timberwolves are triumphant over the Pistons, 128-117. The Raptors, well, they were triumphant over the Bulls, 127-120, everybody. The Olympics begin, well, at least the opening ceremony begins today. We have already had competition, which has already started. It is a very restricted game because of coronavirus. And so about 3,000 athletes will be competing in 15 disciplines across 109 events through February 20th. And so we wish all of the athletes from all over the world well. Politics, of course, they're dominating the games, but we're going to watch them because it's always wonderful to see all these people with these fantastic skills. And the leader of ISIS was killed yesterday during a U.S. counterterrorism raid in northwest Ohio. The explosion resulted in multiple civilian casualties, and rather than be caught, this gentleman killed himself and his family, everybody. Major breakthrough. South African scientists have replicated the Moderna vaccine. This is what the chief scientist at the South African company Afrogen Biologics said. We didn't have help from the major COVID vaccine producers, so we did it ourselves. They have created a close replica of Moderna's mRNA-based coronavirus vaccine without any assistance from the U.S. pharmaceutical giant. They just went on and did it themselves. Did you know that restaurant owners got 30 times more federal COVID aid than workers? That is according to a report called One Fair Wage. At least that's the advocacy group, and the Food Labor Research Center at the University of California at Berkeley. Wow. Hope you'll meet me tomorrow. Jonathan Jackson, my brother, I think he's going to toss his hat into the ring as a congressional candidate. And so meet us at Bordeaux at 8237 South Princeton Avenue from 12 to 3. And for the record, of course, if my brother tosses his hat into the ring, he's got my full support. But I have been reaching out to all of the candidates in the 1st Congressional District because they're all fine people. Number one, it is my responsibility as this host to provide a platform to everyone, whether I agree with you, disagree with you, support you, don't support you. But I really like every one of these candidates. Whoever wins, the 1st Congressional District will be well served. And so I've reached out to them, and they have all pledged to come on this show to make their case and weigh in on the great issues of the day. Well, you know what? Let's get to this. I have been working, you've been hearing me talk about Team Hochberg. We want to save your homes, everybody. We want to save your homes. We're seeing the average rental price in the United States is more than $1,800. How many people can afford that? How many people are losing their homes because they can't get refinanced, or you don't think you can buy a home because you don't have good credit, or your credit has been wrecked, or you've just racked up incredible debt in this pandemic, or just living? Well, Team Hochberg wants to help you, everybody. I want you to call them at 855-56-DAVID, 855-56-DAVID, 56david.com. Go visit them. And you know what? They're also going to be talking to us about getting the proper appraisals. This is something that bedevils Black homeowners. Their homes are underappraised. They want to help you with that. So if you're purchasing a new home, refinancing your existing home, securing a VA loan, or if you're getting a reverse mortgage, they can help you. Pete recently posted his 5-star Google review after saving, get this everybody, $800 a month. That's almost $10,000 a year. That's $9,600 a year. A cash refinance payout with the help of Team Hochberg. He had been listening on WCPT. He said, you know what, the commercial sounds too good to be true. But he reached out and called them at 855-56-DAVID. And guess what? Big shout out to Mark Zinner of Team Hochberg, because they were responsive and they have helped him to settle his debts. And now he's getting more than, he's saving over $800 a month. It can happen for you, everybody. It can happen for you. You can get your credit rebuilt. You can build credit, stop using the debit cards, all of that. They will put you on the right financial track. Call Team Hochberg at 855-56-DAVID, 855-56-DAVID, or visit 56david.com. Everybody, let's talk about what happened. I think we were all gobsmacked when we saw this headline that Jason Van Dyke was getting out of prison. Now, he wasn't going to stay in prison forever, everybody, but he's coming out. He's in a halfway house, which means he's halfway home. He is on his way home. What do you think about that? And what about the federal investigation that he was under in 2014 that we just found out from Reverend Attorney Jeanette Wilson, Reverend Jeanette Wilson Esquire from Rainbow Push? She said, well, they never completed the federal investigation. How could that be? Well, you know what? Got a brilliant panel of legal eagles who are going to help us to take all this apart, led by Attorney C.K. Hoffler, chair of Rainbow Push, and the immediate past president of the National Bar Association, the largest and oldest Black bar association in the world. We've got Attorney Mark Fancher joining us from the National Conference of Black Lawyers. Attorney Keith Lamar, former deputy district attorney, former president of the National Black Prosecutors Association, and Reverend Dr. Todd Geary, Esquire, senior vice president at Rainbow Push and the senior pastor of the Douglas Memorial Community Church in Baltimore. Let's start with you, Attorney C.K. Hoffler. What are we looking at?
Good morning, Santita, and again to your guests and to this magnificent panel and all the listeners. What we're looking at is a travesty. There's no other way to describe it. Laquan McDonald was shot 16 times, and I hate to say this, but I don't know if they were trying to shoot him one time for every year that he was alive, but it's a travesty. So on the state court case in Illinois, the police officer was convicted under Illinois law, but he received a life sentence. And under Illinois law, in the state court and the circuit court, the judges are the ones. And some jurisdictions it's the jury, but and some instances it's the judge. And when I say the jury, there are some states actually that allow the jury to do the sentencing. But anyway, the judge sentenced him to a very light sentence compared to the fact that he did murder this young man. And he served his time and got out for good behavior, which is something that's permissible actually nationwide. So the outcry is because there was not a federal investigation that led to federal charges in 2016. And there should have been, but there wasn't. And so the outcry is getting the Justice Department engaged and all of the players so there can be a modicum of justice for this family. That's the outrage. That's the outcry. That's the travesty. And it's an uphill battle, I will say. And the reason why I say it's an uphill battle, but we're used to uphill battles, so we need to fight because a lot of uphill battles result in victory. The reason why it's an uphill battle is because when you have an investigation that's already taken place by the Justice Department, they may have missed something for sure. There may have been different players for sure. But a lot of times they are reluctant to reopen an investigation because out of deference to the team that investigated in the first place, unless there's some clear and convincing evidence that they missed something. You got to remember, he's been incarcerated. He was incarcerated for 3 years. In a 3-year period of time during a couple of from the first time he was convicted, there have been at least 2 administrations. There's not been any federal indictment. But maybe there could be a hate crime indictment. I don't know the evidence that exists, but I do know that they need to do something. There needs to be an outcry. But they're not going to stop him from going home right now. If there are federal charges, there's got to be an investigation and all that kind of stuff has to be done. So it really is a travesty, but we are not without options.
Well, help me to understand what happened here, Attorney Keith Lamar. I mean, you are a former prosecutor. Indeed, you were the former president of the National Black Prosecutors Association. What happened? I mean, why didn't the feds pursue the investigation of this case? I mean, there's so many whys that we have. I mean, and what happened? Why didn't that happen? What happened here?
Well, I honestly, and this is all honesty, I don't understand why it didn't go harder in their pursuit. But before I even get there, I think that the judge definitely, I know they have discretion, but the sentence was severely light in light of the whole situation and what happened and how, like Attorney C.K. Hoffer said, 16 shots is overkill. And an 81-month sentence is a slap in the face to what we thought was a victory when he first got convicted of the crime. But as far as the feds go, I'm not sure why it wasn't a harder push. I know it would be an uphill battle and a hard case to win, but it's worth the fight. And that's what we do. That's what we're supposed to do.
Well, what are the next steps? I mean, do we pick up I mean, because now people, now they're pressing the feds to get involved. But I'm wondering if what happened with the Tamir Rice case. Of course, the facts are different, but his family just got a letter from DOJ saying that the case is closed. Oh, and he was 12.
Yeah, it's very, very sad. Very sad.
So I mean, the next step
for us to continue to put the pressure on our leaders, the pressure on our elected officials, our elected judges. Everybody, the pressure is on us as well. We have to continue to make sure that we are get a fair fight in this system. Make sure that we voices are heard and that we're treated with the same respect. But somebody is shot 16 times, whether it's an officer doing it, a civilian doing it, or whoever it may be, it should be a lot more punishment, a lot more look into it from the federal side as well. Because we see where states sometimes might drop the ball. And here the judge dropped the ball. I don't think the prosecution did. I think the judge dropped the ball on the sentencing. And I believe that the feds should have went a lot harder. Whether you win or lose your trial, you have to fight for your community, fight for your citizens. And it's not like the first time that we've had a hard case in the federal government. I thought they should have went a little harder.
Attorney Mark Fancher, what do you think? I mean, because now we're seeing in cases like these, the question is, was the victim's civil rights violated? I mean, what do you make of all of this?
Well, I have very definite opinions about this because I fought this fight against DOJ, the Department of Justice, in connection with what I regard as the firing squad execution of a homeless black man in Saginaw, Michigan back in 2012. And, I really think that the decisions that they make, and it's my personal opinion, about whether to prosecute or not are purely political. The basis for bringing one of these federal criminal civil rights prosecutions is 18 United States Code Section 242. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but basically, an excerpt, it says, whoever under color of law willfully subjects any person to the deprivation of their civil rights on account of alienage, their status, color, race, etc., will face a punishment of up to life imprisonment or death if there is an attempt to kill. And when requested to pursue federal criminal civil rights charges against 8 officers who lined up in a parking lot, raised their rifles, and fired 42 shots at a homeless black man in full view of a dashboard camera on one of their cruisers, which provided footage which was as graphic, more graphic, than anything Hollywood has ever produced. DOJ said that they could not pursue charges against these officers because they didn't think they could win. And what they hinged their opinion on was the requirement that the conduct of the officers must be willful. And they claimed that it required proof beyond a reasonable doubt of their specific purpose in violating the law, that if they made mistakes, misperceptions, poor judgment, that wasn't enough, that their position was basically that they had to be able to prove that they were thinking that we want to deprive this homeless man of his civil rights because of his race. And they said that they couldn't get into the officers' heads and prove their intent. I came back at them and said that there was a United States Supreme Court case called Screws versus United States, which recognized the difficulty of trying to prove that if you interpret the law's requirement in the way that they were interpreting it. And the Supreme Court said that to act willfully is to act in open defiance or reckless disregard of a constitutional requirement that has been made specific and definite, which is a lot easier to do than, trying to say that you are a mind reader. They remain silent in the face of that, and they refuse to do it. And beyond that, you don't even need to get to the question, in my opinion, of trying to prove what the officers were thinking if you're interested in winning. Because you put that type of graphic evidence, both in Laquan McDonald's case, in the case of Milton Hall, the homeless black man who was shot, you put that graphic video evidence before 12 good citizens, who are reasonably honest, then they're going to do your job for you. They're going to give you a conviction. But I think, and this is just my opinion, that they don't have enormous resources to pursue these prosecutions, and that they don't want to go after anybody, unless it's going to produce some type of benefit for them on some level. And pursuing a prosecution against a homeless black man was something they didn't want to waste their money on. According to one source, in 2019, the Department of Justice brought only 49 Section 242 cases. Now, you compare that with 70,000 cases that they filed against people who allegedly were coming across the border illegally. And you see that they have the personnel and the capacity to prosecute people, but they just don't bring these cases. So it doesn't surprise me that they didn't want to do it with Tamir Rice. And, if they do it in this case, it will only be because the people have made it clear to them that there will be a price to be paid for them not doing it. But they have to be pressured into doing it. Otherwise, they'll just sit on their thumbs and look the other way because they don't want to, use their resources for something that's not going to be politically advantageous. And again, that's just me talking.
No, you're saying the protests that now are beginning to arise. You're saying that they can move the needle in the Justice Department?
And I do. And the reason I think that is because when Rodney King was beaten, and that was one of the first instances where, the United States was able to see contemporaneous video footage of police brutality. And everybody was shocked, and everybody was in an uproar. And when the state prosecution against those officers failed, those guys were acquitted, the massive protest, and I believe in response to that, including an insurrection, led to the federal government feeling pressured to bring federal criminal civil rights charges against those officers, and they won. They got the convictions. Mm-hmm. So I think it requires, they have to feel pressured. They have to believe that, unless we do this, they're going to come screaming for our scalps.
Reverend Dr. Todd Urey, I've got 3 minutes, 3 minutes before we go to break. Your thoughts? Because, of course, you had Freddie Gray in Baltimore.
We indeed did have Freddie Gray in Baltimore, which was a much harder case because we did not have video evidence of what happened in real time. We had the pursuit. We had the taking of Freddie into custody. We could see him placed in the police van. We could not see what happened in terms of the route that was taken, what happened in the back of the van. And so that led to a lot of gaps in being able to establish what actually happened. What we did get out of it right after Attorney General Loretta Lynch was confirmed, actually the day after she was sworn, she came to Baltimore and sat in a room with many of the community leaders and Congressman Cummings and other elected officials, and we requested of her a pattern and practice investigation of the police department. We're now under a consent decree. Much of that flows from the impetus in the aftermath of Freddie Gray's death. You had a pattern and practice investigation of the Chicago Police Department after Laquan McDonald. I will give you two terms that kind of frame up where we are. This is less about justice and more about politics. Rahm Emanuel and the Trump administration. Remember, had there not been the pressure to release the video in the first place, you would have never had charges of Jason Van Dyke. And it was Rahm Emanuel, the former mayor, now the ambassador to Japan, who sat on the video. It was about the time that there was consideration of whether or not he would run for re-election, and he knew that that would be devastating to his chances. And so we've seen the effects of him sitting on it. What ended up coming out of it is that the Trump administration, as Attorney Fancher just talked about, did not believe in using 18 U.S.C. 242 under color of law to look at police misconduct because they were catering the FOP nationally. And so that was all part of this process. But there's something more, not just the individual actions of Van Dyke. The pattern and practice investigation and the DOJ's report of the Chicago Police Department speaks to the apparent evidence of collusion amongst the other officers, to Attorney Fancher's point. And so we never got to this notion of whether or not there was conspiratorial behavior on the part of other officers. You only got one state.
1 minute.
You should have had several. As we are seeing in Minneapolis post-George Floyd, when you have Derek Chauvin, but also the other three officers who were there now being prosecuted, not just at the state level, but also at the federal level, that's a different kind of frame. And now that we have that as kind of the precipice, there is, I think, justification to go back and look at it. And we must note that both of the U.S. senators from the state of Illinois have written a letter to the Justice Department to that effect, asking them to reopen the investigation into Jason Van Dyke's behavior. I just hope that it's not just the single officer who fired the shots. And if you go back and look at the video, it is clearly an egregious violation of Laquan civil rights. Just in the timing, you can see the gaps, that there was a maliciousness and a depravity in Jason Van Dyke's behavior, but there was also a difference on the part of the other officers. And so there's much to be looked at here, not just in terms of what happened back when Freddie Gray died, but also since we now have George Floyd, Kim Potter, and all of the others, there's more than enough justification to go back and reopen it so that we correct what has been a political wrong.
And it just keeps on going, everybody. It keeps on going. What do you think about this? I want you to call me at 773-763-9278. Let's talk about Jason Van Dyke. Let's talk about Mary Emanuel, who's now the ambassador to Japan. He got kicked upstairs, everybody. I'm back with more of the Santita Jackson Show in just a few minutes. Whew. Oh, everybody, this is a lot. Easy. Oh, you all can talk amongst yourselves. We can talk while we're on commercial break.
It is. I look at the whole thing overall. Honestly, it's for Chicago when they first did it, was like he said, that he just said, it took them forever to even go about the case. I think he was one of the first people in like 30 years to actually be convicted. Am I right about that?
You know it. Let me tell you. Let's go back. He called in 3 groups of black leadership, with whom he had close financial ties. Let's put it that way. And he went with them to find out what we should do about this case, right? What should we do about this? What should we do about this? And then he had a financial settlement with the family. And I, like you, CK, hey, I can't beat Laquan's family loving him. I cannot. And so their financial settlement, I respect it, and they have behaved accordingly, and I can appreciate that. That having been said, it's like Emmett Till. This is now beyond them. This is not even about Laquan anymore. This is about Sandra Bland. This is about Philando Castile. This is about Tamir Rice. This is about George Floyd, and on and on, and Ahmaud Arbery and Breonna Taylor, and on and on and on. This is now we can just pick this up and keep on going. This is so big, Keith. This is
this is ridiculous. I remember he saying, "Hey, you try to calm the people down if you want to, rock with us." Pretty much trying to force the pastors to make a move in his favor. So, things like that should all be pointed out on why they're not moving forward, the federal government in that particular aspect. It's like, well, look what happened just when we started. Before the video, it took years just for the video to be seen. It wasn't an upright, like, here's the video. It's a fight just to see it.
Well, he tried like all the Dickens not to get it shown. And he won re-election by the hair of his chinny chin chin. But, he won re-election because no one had seen it. But then a funny thing happened on the way to the forum. After people saw it, people were so outraged. You took to the streets and all of that. He had to announce, I'm not going to run for re-election. Now, mind you, everyone knows that this has been his dream job, that and the presidency of the United States. But he had to leave this because people were so outraged. When you saw the video of them shooting this boy on the ground, because he was a 17-year-old boy, and you saw that smoke rising from his body, oh, come on. Oh, smoke or blood or a combination of the two. It was like, you got to be kidding me. And the police did not even come over to assist this child. I'm like, CK?
1 minute.
Well, the police, nobody went over to assist Ahmaud Arbery either.
Oh, no, not at all. I mean, they just...
He wasn't 17. But let me say, and I keep on saying this, I hate to say it, but I keep on saying it. He was 17 years old. They shot him 16 times. I suppose, were they trying to shoot him? They probably didn't know his age, but I guess the figure. Was he trying to shoot him, one bullet for each year of his life? Because he almost made it. This is despicable. But I think a few things, Santita, that when we come back, even now, we need to discuss.
Okay, well, we've got Chappelle here.
2017.
Back in 20.
I'm sorry. I have to definitely defer to Chappelle. Chappelle, I tried to make it. The weather just prevented me from coming. I had stopped eating as much in the course of the week, so I would have reserved space in my body to absorb the food. But the weather
Stand by. Look, I'm getting my greens today, and my string beans and my ham hock. Thank you. Yes.
Change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show. What are your thoughts about Jason Van Dyke getting out after 3 years? He's getting out with good behavior. He is the former Chicago police officer, the then Chicago police officer, who was convicted of killing Laquan McDonald. 16 shots and a cover-up. You remember the mess, but sometimes we have to be reminded. As we've got this tremendous panel of legal eagles. The former president of the National Black Prosecutors Association, attorney Keith Lamar, Reverend Dr. Todd Urey, Esquire, out of Baltimore, of course. He was helping to keep the city held together, along with this great congressman who passed away, Elijah Cummings, when Freddie Gray was killed. And, like you said, there's a lot of tape we didn't see. Of course, attorney Mark Fancher, National Conference of Black Lawyers, brilliant civil libertarian who's handled cases just like this. And attorney C.K. Hoffler, chair of Rainbow Push and immediate past president of the National Bar Association. Before we go back to that, we got to pivot over to our food. Chappelle, I know CK's upset because she's not going to see you today, but that's all right. We'll be ready for her, when she comes back here in a couple of weeks. Celebrations by us, Chaparral. What's going on? Is Chaparral there?
I have it ready
Okay.
for you. Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah. No, I couldn't. Now I can. All right.
Okay. So, yes, I'm going to have everything ready for CK when she retires. But Celebrations by Us is now taking your orders for the Super Bowl. So call us if you need those hot wings, those barbecue wings, sweet and sour wings, as well as also those
meatballs,
stuffed potatoes and meatballs. Don't forget tacos, whatever you need for the Super Bowl, we have it ready for you. Celebrations by Us is also a complete event planner. So we do balloon arches, floral arrangements, as well as also all of your party needs. But we're also doing a special commemorative anniversary gala for Courtney Copeland Memorial Foundation.
Now, that's your son.
March 5th. That's my son.
That's right.
And, this whole topic becomes very personal for me, what you're talking about today, Santita. And I asked everybody to go to Eventbrite to purchase tickets for the gala. If you can't attend a gala, sponsor a mother who has lost a child. And we're asking everyone to support. Just go to Eventbrite and search engine the Courtney Copeland Memorial Gala. Also, I wanted to say, while I have all these great attorneys online, that this process that we're seeing with the DOJ is something that has been occurring for centuries. They have failed Black America in the persecution of people who have been so offensive and egregious to us. I just got, in my own personal situation, I just got a whiff of...
Well, no, just what happened. Just give us a snapshot of what happened to you. Because let me say this, she has a podcast that's been heard by almost 2 million people. It certainly has been downloaded almost 2 million times. She'll be speaking at South by Southwest panel. And it's brilliant. And she's been on Dateline and the Invisible Institute. And she have partnered really trying to find out what happened to her son. All we see, I mean, it's been a long time. Just give us a snapshot of what happened to Courtney.
Well, Courtney was killed on March 4th, 2016, and we still don't know who shot my son. But what we have uncovered is that in the presence of CPD, that he was left to bleed to death in front of at least 10 to 12 officers who applied no first aid to him. Not only did he bleed to death in front of them, but they also handcuffed him. And as I was saying, Santita, the office, the City of Chicago Office of Inspector General actually reviewed Courtney's case, and he said in his summary of his report that the preponderance of the evidence showed that my son was indeed handcuffed. And the reason why I say that that power protects power, because when the City of Chicago reviewed it and CPD reviewed their own Inspector General report, they said, well, we don't believe what you said. That we disagreed that it was enough evidence to say that my son was indeed handcuffed and these violations have occurred. And we have seen that not only these type of egregious behaviors happen in CPD, but this is a pattern for centuries for Chicago Police Department, as well as also it's being protected. The police department is being protected by the Department of Justice because they were of their sheer refusal to actually prosecute these cases to the fullest extent of the law. We see that that many families, such as myself, we see Tamir Rice, Sandra Bland, Michael Brown, Trayvon Martin, all of these people have been denied by the Department of Justice. We see recently Emmett Till denied by the Department of Justice. So what is it that we can do as citizens to go up? I think we need to do a class action lawsuit at this point, because we have to make them enforce the rules, enforce the law. And so I'm listening to Attorney Fancher as he fights this law, because all of them were denied based on the same thing, this willingness to find error in what they did. Our kids are dead. Our children are dead because of the lack of care in the hands of these people. Somebody needs to pay them, Peter.
Stay right there. Attorney Fancher, why don't you respond to what you've heard from Chaparral Wells, from Mrs. Wells?
Well, I agree completely. And, I think the indifference to human suffering by DOJ is the thing that has enraged me because, you know, when we first pressed this on behalf of Milton Hall, the homeless black man that was shot, the response that I got was, well, we can't prosecute, but they can always file a civil lawsuit. What are you saying? I mean, are you trying to reduce the life of a man, you know, the lives of a community of people, to the question of how much money they can get in a civil lawsuit? And not only that, it shows a complete misunderstanding of what is at stake here. It's not that people are looking for a payday because somebody got shot. I mean, they're looking for the opportunity to walk down the street without fearing that they're going to be killed by law enforcement. And the way that you do that, one of the ways that you do that is to make the police officers who are inclined to do this kind of thing know that there are consequences, serious consequences for whatever it is that they choose to do. And when you limit the remedy of victims to civil lawsuits, then it means that there are no consequences for police officers who kill. Because the reality is that if you sue a police officer, and you win, or if you get a settlement, even a huge settlement, one that's 7 figures or more, none of that comes out of the pockets of the police officers themselves. They may not even know that the case was settled. They have no involvement, and so as far as they know, they're completely protected. So civil litigation is not an adequate remedy for this. The only thing that will make police officers understand that they shouldn't go around shooting people and killing people is the same thing that lets the rest of us know that we can't go around shooting people and killing people, because we know that if we do that, we're going to end up in jail. Or in some cases, we may end up in a gas chamber, depending upon which state you're in. And for many people, that's a pretty significant deterrent. But police officers have no deterrent whatsoever. They know, because they've seen other officers do it, that if a police officer kills somebody, life will go on as usual.
Attorney Lamar, if police officers knew, to a woman, to a man, that there were significant penalties for these kinds of actions, do you think that would change anything?
I do believe so. I believe it starts really with punishing the small infractions, right? So if you know that, hey, they go hard on a small infraction, but there's no way in the world I'm going to pull out my gun. No way in the world I'm going to say, oh, I thought it was a taser, but it's a real gun. No way am I going to shoot somebody 16 times. Oh, sorry, I didn't realize it. You know, that would not happen, because if you stop the small infractions and you nip it in the bud early, they won't feel so entitled later in the game, and it's a big injustice happens. It shouldn't happen that way. The only reason big things happen is because you let a lot of small things occur over a long period of time.
Noel from the South Side. Noel, what's on your mind today?
Good morning, Miss Jackson. How you doing?
It's always a joy to hear your voice, Noel.
Okay. The feds, they have unlimited resources when it comes to prosecution. Okay? They were able to indict Ms. Mosley out of Maryland, in Baltimore, Maryland, for taking out her own money, for God's sake.
Her own money.
They can indict, Jason can indict tomorrow if they want. There's no statute of limitation on murder. Their conviction in state court itself is sufficient to bring civil rights charges under 18 U.S.C. 242 for violating the young man's civil rights. So the idea that they don't have any resources is just a bunch of BS. I know they have all the money to be able to prosecute Mr. Van Dyke. And what he did, and Ron Emanuel covered up the entire event. And what was his reward? Our two senators from Illinois, and Durbin and Duckworth. Okay, they rewarded him with ambassadorship. That's what he was nominated by Joe Biden. This man covered up the murder of a young black man. And what is his reward? We confirm him for an ambassadorship. Just for that, the next election, I'm not voting for Dunwell, I'm not voting for Durbin, and I'm not voting for Biden. I guarantee you that. Just as a protest.
Well, you know, what about protest? I mean, because something has to happen here. We saw different groups go outside yesterday, Reverend Dr. Uri, because they said, you know, we've got to do something. And Attorney Fancher said, look, it's the public pressure that can move the needle.
Yeah, the public pressure comes in a variety of forms, right? There's the public protest, as we saw on yesterday. There is the electoral protest, as your caller just mentioned. I believe it is Senator Duckworth whose seat is up this year. I think there are opportunities where your voice has to continue to be heard, but to his point, it's the discretion of the Department of Justice to choose when they want to apply and go after whatever it is they're going after, right? He mentioned the very thin kind of public corruption charge here in Baltimore City against Marilyn Mosby, talking about the inadequacy of charges against Laquan McDonald. Here's the thing that I think we have to raise, and this is where everybody gets involved at the state level. Many times, the protections of police officers in incidents just like this is codified in state law by way of collective bargaining. The union contract very often sets procedures that favor police officers and makes it much harder to be in a position to hold them accountable when you have these incidents, even in the face of just enormous video evidence. And so we've got to make sure that we're looking at the entire picture, because it'd be like whack-a-mole. If we hit one on the head, three more are going to pop up. And so we got to be real clear that it's political in terms of who represents your interests in electoral politics. It is also contractual, how they go about taking care of the police union when those contracts are negotiated by local governments. The listening audience needs to be involved in that conversation with their council members. And we got to make sure that we put the pressure on the administration that relied on these voters to get in the first place. They cannot play this game that they don't want to criticize a prior administration because of some gentleman's agreement, if you will, that we don't do that. They have to go back and say, this was not handled properly. We need to go back and correct the record. We need to make sure that Jason Van Dyke and others, just because we keep mentioning a name, I am not letting go of the fact that the only reason you got one, it does not mean that you don't look at the entire universe of those officers who showed up and watched him. 15 plus 1 is basically the police issue. He emptied his weapon on Laquan McDonald. Most of the shots happened after Laquan McDonald fell, because he fell, he turned and fell after the initial shots. So we got to make sure that we're real clear that we don't, just because we haven't seen the video in a while, you can go back and find it. You got to pay attention to what's there, because those images never go away. George Floyd's images never go away. We've got to put that's the image. Make them look at that and say there's no basis to go further with the charges against Jason Van Dyke and the other officers. Where are they? Some of them change departments. Some of them go to other places in the country, carry their certification intact, and do the same thing in terrorizing other neighborhoods. And so we got to make sure that we bring the entire, to Chaparral's point, because I let the ladies have it this morning, and the chair spoke very, very clearly about that food. You got to bring the whole recipe to the table, because otherwise we don't come away with cake.
Well, you know, Arlene Williams, CK, asks this question. Aren't we acting too late regarding McDonald? Should there not have been a push for federal charges years ago? CK.
We are not acting too late. There should have been a push for federal charges years ago, and there was a push for federal charges years ago. I don't know if everyone remembers, but there was a 2017 Department of Justice report, an agreement that was reached for oversight of the city police in Chicago. I mean, there's been widespread global recognition of problems with the Chicago Police Department. This case fell kind of within the ambit of some of the problems. So there was a push, there was an investigation, but I'm not quite certain that the investigation focus on some of the issues that we would like the investigation to maybe focus on today. I think that's the difference. It's never too late. It's never too late to fight and advocate for children being killed, young people being killed, old people being killed at the hands of law enforcement when there's excessive use of force. You know, if we have Shapiro, who's on the line, she doesn't know who shot her child. The thing that she does know is that law enforcement sat there and watched her child die. I'm so sorry for having to express it that way, Pearl. But that's what she does know. So you don't stop fighting for your children, because I am humble enough to know that it could be my child tomorrow. So if ever you need any motivation to continue to fight for this type of injustice, random acts of excessive use of force for no reason, no good reason, no solid reason, no justifiable reason, then look in the mirror and just think that it could be your son, your nephew, your godson, your father. And that should give you, because that is a state of affairs primarily for Black and brown people when we talk about law enforcement in this country. We see these high-profile cases. I know really every one of the lawyers prosecuting these high-profile cases, not because I'm a high-profile lawyer, but because I knew them back then. People who were fighting civil rights and social justice, I've been associated with and have worked with Reverend Jackson for my entire career, with the exception of 6 months. So if you're working with a civil rights icon for that long, you are going to be in that space, observing that space, know the players in that space. And when I tell you the high-profile cases are a scintilla, to use a word in the Bible, a mustard seed of the cases that exist out there, a mustard seed of the cases that exist out there of injustice, police shootings, police brutality, criminal justice, injustice, I know what I'm speaking of. So there's a reason to get up and fight every day for this at your comfort level. Can't everybody take to the streets of Chicago in 19 below degree weather? But people can pick up the phone, since they're watching everything on the phone, and they can call, they can make calls, they can write a letter, a handwritten letter, and put a 42-cent, I guess it's 42-cent stamp on the letter. They can reach out and call their local congressperson, their local senator's office, and just register their outrage. They can call the Justice Department, their lines. All of those things matter. They can support organizations that are in the streets protesting. You can't get out there and do it yourself? Well, how about a small donation, a large donation, a huge donation to Rainbow Push, to Transformative Justice Coalition, to Action Network, to NAACP, to all of these organizations that fund the volunteers and the staff and the team so that these protests can take place. We can all help some way. And again, if you don't feel like you're not motivated, look in the mirror, and it could be someone who's really close to you who's next. I hate to put it that way.
But sadly, but it is the truth. I'm going to get closing thoughts from everybody on the panel. Let me start with you. Attorney Keith Lamar, because you've been a prosecutor. I mean, so you've seen this from, really where the police are, where the prosecutors are. What are our next steps here?
It's a lot of things that need to happen, but I guess to be more sensible, I guess our next step is really truly to educate everyone, including the police, including our citizens and the prosecutors further about how we need to go about certain crimes and how to be fair. Because at this point, it is not a fair shake, it's not a fair system how it's looking to the community. And once you lose faith in your community, once the community loses faith in you, then you start to lose the whole community. So right now, they need to work on building that trust. They need to work on being transparent. And I think the very next step is really a full, transparent conversation and education about how we go about doing this and how we should have police reform all around the board.
Reverend Todd Urey, Esquire, 1 minute.
Well, I think it's where Madam Chair put it, right? Do what you can, where you can, get in where you fit in terms of raising this issue. And one of the things that is particularly clear, Derek Johnson, the president and CEO of the NAACP, wrote a letter to the Justice Department earlier in the week. Rainbow Push, Reverend Jackson, has expressed his concern directly to the senators and is preparing a letter to go to the Justice Department. I think you got to use the tools that are available to you. To the point, there's not a march every day, but there can be a movement every day. You got to send an email, a fax, go to the U.S. Attorney, send it to the U.S. Attorney in the Northern District of Illinois to raise that issue. All of that has to be part of the repertoire that we bring to this conversation. And most importantly, we got to make sure we're registered to vote and ready to vote in the next election, whether that's for dog catcher or president, because all of those elections have something to bring to bear on how we have a quality of life in the Black community.
Attorney Mark Fancher.
Well, I too agree with Attorney Hoffler. It's not too late. And I think that the first thing that everybody needs to do is, to the extent that anybody's frame of mind is such that they're thinking we need to ask DOJ to do us a favor, get out of that frame of mind. Department of Justice works for us. They do what we say. And if they tell us that they don't think that they can win and that's why they don't want to bring the case, then I think our response has to be, well, at least try. At least try. Because we're confident that you can, given the graphic evidence that's available here. And if you lose, no problem. You at least tried, but you got to do what we say. And finally, when we're deciding what we're going to do in order to put the pressure on, to the extent that we can, we need to avoid defaulting to methods and tactics that have been used in the past. Merely protesting and demonstrating, it's great, but they are prepared for that. They've been watching us do that for generations, and they know how to deal with it. We need to start thinking creatively about new ways to do things that will make them very uncomfortable, things that will affect their money, things that will in some way force them to do what we're asking or demanding in order to preserve their comfort level. We do that, I think we win.
CK, I got a minute.
Earlier, the question was asked, who was the judge that sentenced Jason Van Dyke? His name was Judge Vincent Gauguin, Gaughan. Remember that name. You all in Chicago, you're in Illinois. Remember these judges when you have objections to sentencing. Just remember and register to vote so you can make a difference.
And
I think we have to, again, like I said.
CK, we have to have something to interrupt you right here. We've got to engage in some voter education about the judges who are running, CK.
Absolutely.
And we saw this in Justice Smollett's case. His behavior was highly irregular. In the Kyle Rittenhouse case, they were unfair. They were just unfair. It's like, do we have any recourse?
Well, you do have recourse, and I think we should do a show on that. The Terrence Edgecombe case that was tried in the same space as Kyle Rittenhouse. So I think, throughout the country there are these judges, but it's important to register to vote and fight at your comfort level, but do something. Do something.
Everybody do something. Get involved. And I hope that you will meet me. Speaking of getting involved, tomorrow we're going to have a meet and greet for Jonathan Jackson. It looks like he's going to toss his hat into the ring and run for Congress. That he'll make that official next week, but tomorrow there's a meet and greet at 8237 South Princeton from 12 to 3 tomorrow. Just get on over there. Get on over there and get involved. And I repeat, as I've been saying throughout the show, hey, everybody who's running for that first congressional seat, I've been reaching out to them. They have a home here on this show. I want you to hear from everybody. We would be well served by any of these persons who's running. Really, they're all great people. But I support my brother. That having been said, but I support the process even more. It's important. And as a steward of the airwaves, it is my responsibility to let everyone be heard. Sunday on Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. And I hope you'll join us virtually on Rainbow Push at 10 o'clock Central Standard Time tomorrow on rainbowpush.org and on our YouTube channel and all of that. See you tomorrow at Jonathan Jackson's meet and greet at 12 o'clock, 82nd in Princeton. Until tomorrow, God bless you, everybody. Have a great day. Do you all want to say anything to the Facebook audience before we go?
I'm going to have to. Thanks so much for the chance.
Oh, please. We love having you. I just have to catch you, Mark.
Thank Same here. I think it's a good discussion. Good to get people talking about it. And I think that, honestly, like you said, at least try. All right, don't just tell us we can't do it, because I know there's other trials in which we know there's not a lot of evidence. Y'all move forward like it's tons of evidence. So don't be hesitant when it comes to this.
But you know what, Attorney Lamar, you got to work, okay? You got to make these things happen. You got to make. I mean, do you think that Mamie Till Mobley, that she wasn't climbing a mountain? These people were not going to let her bring her baby out of Mississippi unless she promised to keep the casket closed. I mean, for real. I mean, what did they think, that they had changed? I guess they thought they had a lock on her brain, that she was going to say, "Oh yes, sir, massa, I won't do it." Forget that. She opened that casket up. She said, "No. I want, come on. I want all y'all to see what they've done to my child. You got to get out here. I don't care if the odds look like they are against you. You must make this happen." Now it's not even about Laquan. It's about Philando Castile. Yes, it's about Michael Bell, white boy in Kenosha, Wisconsin. CK, we've talked to his father several times, and I've got to reach out to him today. Mm-hmm. He was riding home. Okay, he'd been out, he'd had a little fun, maybe he was a little drunk, a little something, and so, okay. He gets out the car, the police follow him, and he said, "Look, I know my rights." Now, he wasn't so out of it, he didn't turn on his phone and tape everything. And you know what happened? The police, he pulled up in front of his mama's house, and as his mother and sister were walking out, as he was the police was wrestling him to the ground, the police officer pulled out the gun and they pulled the trigger, and it would not fire because it was too close. Then he pulled the gun back, fired, and blew this boy's brains out in front of his mama and his sister. Now, hold on. Now, his father, they got a settlement, and his father has used every dime and then more of his money to change the laws in Wisconsin. I'm going to bring him back. Because at some point, some of these settlements we have to use to change the laws. He took out billboards all across the state. And he didn't just make it about his son. He said, "This is not just happened to my son." He said, as a matter of fact, my thinking has changed. Kenosha is a very white town, very middle class, very middle of the road, very, apple pie, hot dogs and Chevrolet. He said, "Oh no, I see things very differently. I see what they did to my child." So he's taken that money and he has helped to change the laws. But the police won't give him the tapes either. And certain vital information, CK and Keith and whoever else is left of Reverend Yeary. I mean, come on. This, Get the settlement and use that money to help make some change. That's got to happen. That's got to happen. CK, Keith, Reverend Yeary.
Well, I will say this. There are a lot of families that I'm aware of, George Floyd's family, Ahmaud Arbery's family, families like that do keep fighting. I think what we have to realize, it's not about the money for them. Mm-hmm. They want their loved one back. But the money does enable them to do other things in honor of, in the name of, when they are appearing at different places and protesting and speaking out, how do you think they get there?
Wait, not to mention the fact that, do you think they want to come to these events and relive the killings?
Every time.
Are you kidding me? There's nothing exciting or glamorous about that. Nothing.
Trayvon Martin's mother. Lucy McBath, her son who was killed, she became a member of Congress. Mm-hmm. When they go through this. And that's why I said fight at your comfort level. But there are thousands of people who support organizations because they can't go out and do it for different reasons. Sometimes people are not mobile enough to go and protest. They don't protest is not their thing, but they might give some money. And people give money anonymously. If you feel like you don't want the risk of having your name because you are in a position where that could affect your job, your livelihood, we get it. Give it anonymously. Many people give money anonymously.
Absolutely.
To organizations that they know are doing the right thing.
Because I'm not trying to make you lose. No. Then what you do is you say, okay, now look, I can't do this, but I can do that. So,
and let me tell you something else people can do. When you're in a space where there's discussion or planning of doing these things, step up. Because sometimes people are in rooms when they see this happening and people speak in front of them thinking that they're part of this, they have the same mentality, and they don't. There are many things that people can do at their level. And I've had some friends that have said, you know, I've been in rooms where I've heard people speaking, and I do speak up because we might be of the same color, the same, you know, very wealthy or whatever, and they feel comfortable speaking around me.
Mm-hmm.
And I do speak up. I do change mine. That's why I hate to just keep coming back to the U.S. Supreme Court. It's important to have a strong Black woman on the U.S. Supreme Court. And don't be concerned about it. Well, it won't change the dynamic of conservative versus. You don't know what it will change.
That's right.
A strong leader can can talk to people. That's what they do at the U.S. Supreme Court level. That's what they're supposed to do. And a lot of times that's what they do. Do you think Thurgood Marshall had it easy when he became a member of the U.S. Supreme Court?
Well, hold on. Let me tell you. You know, there's much has been made of the Scalia Ginsburg relationship. Now, look, she wasn't always this great progressive. Now, that was not her history, and she and Scalia were very close. And there are articles that have been written that said he used to bully her into moving to the right on some of her positions. You know, these become your friends, okay? Whatever you think. I mean, that's just the way it is.
For life. I mean, it's a lifetime job.
This is
a lifetime job, and no one is going to voluntarily give up that lifetime job because it's the top court of the land, unless it's just time for you to retire or unless you pass away. That's the only way.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, these federal appointments, these federal judicial appointments are lifetime as well.
Oh my goodness. Let me call this person. Well, does anyone else have anything else they would like to say?
Santita, I just want to quickly
I didn't realize you were still there, Shapiro.
Yeah, I just want to quickly say that we also have to talk about the Justice Department enforcing the consent decrees, because what we've noticed here in Chicago and also in Baltimore is they're not enforcing them. And so the police have not changed in Chicago. The policy and procedures, they have not been reprimanded because they're not following them. They have not enforced not one part of the consent decree here in Chicago. So these are things that we need to talk about as well to get them, the Department of Justice, to enforce what they instituted in these states.
Right. And Shapiro is referring to the 2017 Justice Department when I talked about DOJ in 2017 when they imposed a consent decree on the Chicago Police Department to do certain things. And Shapiro, I've got to apologize. You know, I spoke very bluntly about what happened to your son, and I just felt badly about saying that on the air. But I wanted people to understand you don't stop fighting when you lose your child. You don't stop fighting.
You don't at all, CK. And I tell people I'm going to continue to fight until my last breath, until I cannot fight anymore. And that's why when I received this OIG report, I was so upset because of the fact that it's still saying they're still lying. They're still saying that what I see on tape, what others have witnessed, did not occur. So how do you fight that when they continue to lie in the face of the reality of what happened to my son? So, and I also know that if they are lying about this, what else is unknown that they did to him? I know they did more to him. I would never say that they did not contribute to my son's death. I would never give them clearance to say that, oh, they're exempt from my son's death. I don't know. What I do know is that they watched my son lay down on that ground for 13 minutes before they administer any type of help to him, and they watched him bleed to death, and they handcuffed him and while he was dying. That I can definitely say. So, I mean, the reality is that we see these type of behaviors day in and day out, and what can we do but continue to fight until our last breath?
Yeah. And Santita, we have to fight at multiple levels. To the point, one of the challenges that we have still, it came up in the fight over police reform, is the issue of qualified immunity. That the accountability that goes with officers in the performance of their official duties is actually shielded by law. That's the issue. The other part of it, when we start talking about consent decrees are at the federal level are overseen by federal courts. There's an opportunity for communities to get involved in that process before the courts approve the termination of the consent decree because it's been satisfied. So Baltimore City is under a federal consent decree. If you remember, in Chicago, the administration changed before the federal government could get a consent with the city. And I believe it was State Attorney General Madigan that put a state version of a consent decree on the Chicago Police Department. But there's still ways to make sure that when they're taking public comment, when they're having community sessions, when they're looking at the budgets, when they're talking about these policies and procedures, when we're pushing for civilian review boards that do the review of police misconduct cases administratively, we've got to be involved in all of those areas of the engagement, because this is not a police thing, period. It's a system thing. Policing is protective of a system of injustice that reinforces the entitlement and the interest of some to the exclusion of others. And so we got to be involved in all of that.
And that's why it's important to have Keith Lamar as a prosecutor, because you need to understand the whole system. That's what Johnny Cochran taught us. Johnny Cochran understood. No, seriously, because you have to understand it from all angles, right?
And I agree 100% with you on that. And when I talk to my clients and I talk to people in the community, I tell them, I said, you need to have somebody that knows the system. You can't have everybody outside. There has to be somebody in there to know what is going on. Because if you can't fight a battle, we don't know who we're fighting.
Absolutely. Nichelle Nichols was going to leave Star Trek, and Dr. King said, oh, no. We need you right here. All of these millions of people who see you every week. I don't know what's going on set. I don't know what is going on, what other pressures you might be facing in Hollywood or other opportunities. But this is important. So let's not slam people for where they are. That was something, that was a hit that then Senator Harris took. I mean, they said you were a prosecutor. I'm like, yeah. Did I agree with everything she did as a prosecutor? No, but I mean, I don't agree with everything I did. I don't agree with all my thoughts, even from last week. So I'm like, okay, I got it.
Yeah, that's funny. I agree with you. Because I was wondering, like, what's the problem? Like, y'all got a problem with that?
Yes.
Like,
yes.
What's the problem?
Well, see, that's the thing. If we talk about really historically, Dr. King, because we mentioned Dr. King, your father, Santita, and so many others fought so that we could be prosecutors, so that we could be on Star Trek, so that we could be, so that we opening doors so people could be in places we couldn't be before. Now, that's a different thing than getting there and sitting there and acting crazy. That's a different thing.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, so many of us do that. We're so into being the first or only. We want to be the onlyest one. I'm like, what is this? I didn't march for you to do this.
First of many.
Yeah, no, I
need to be
my breath on that because when you get that opportunity, you have to take it and bring people along with you. That's the whole purpose of the opportunity. That's what creates the opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely.
You have no power if you can't promote and bring people with you. All you're doing is occupying a seat. And by the way, when you go on vacation and come back, somebody else may be in your chair. Don't get me started on that. Lord have mercy.
Bigger facts.
No, but that part, okay, that's real. So we have to look at all of that. All of that, and so you can understand the system. And understand where it needs to be reformed. I mean, there are people who will tell you, no. See, no, it's under that cushion. How do I know? Because I clean in here.
That's how you know.
No, I clean here, so I know. I mean, a friend of mine had a big job at a network, and it turns out the janitorial crew at this iconic building in New York overheard the executives talking about how they were going to have to let her go because her behavior had been inappropriate. I mean, she was just talking too much, and it was, problematic uh, for the company. And but you couldn't tell this girl anything. A friend of mine who was general counsel for Steve Ross, who engineered the Time Warner merger, and she would tell me, "Look, the reason I have a job is because your father came in here and asked Steve Ross, that you have no black people up here aside from your secretary. She's got a six-figure salary, and that's great, and she holds you together, but no, you mean to tell me you can't find one black lawyer to put in your office? Come on, Steve." Because they were friends. He said, "Oh, no. So she told me, because she called me and said, "Hey, I know you know her. Call her because maybe there's something she can do to rectify this." I called a friend of mine because a friend of mine had just told me, "Don't touch her. She's white hot." And she is not, say, the nicest person. Well, I ignored. My mother said, "You got to call her. You got to let her know." Oh, boy. You couldn't tell her anything. She said something to me that was very insulting. Okay, I let it go. And oh my goodness, it blew up in her face. They did fire her. But it was the janitor who overheard. It was the spooks who sat by the door, the folks who ain't nobody paying attention to, who you should always pay attention to. It's just, you need everybody everywhere. We all matter. Everybody. Everybody.
Yep.
Oh boy. Do you want to say anything else to the Facebook audience and YouTube before we go?
And to that, the only thing I want to say is thank you. And what I say to Chaparral, I every day when I hear Chaparral speaking, whenever I hear her speak, it's a joy. It's a joy. And I do think of the food. Yes, there's that. But what I really think of when I think of Chaparral, I think of that mother who every day wakes up reminded that her son will never be at the table. Chaparral is me. I'm Chaparral. Chaparral is you. Chaparral is all of us. And I think one of the lessons that we need to learn is it could be us. We can't just say, well, that affects somebody else. It's not that kind of party when it comes to excessive use of force or police brutality. We all have children. Your children may not, as we may not have, they don't have perfect judgment. They may not always do things that we want them to do, but they don't deserve to die for it. They don't deserve to die.
Part of what spurred my brother Jonathan's activism with his North Carolina A&T degree and his MBA from Northwestern's Kellogg School of Management, he was opening up a chain of stores. And he, in his fabulous tailored suit, was with one of his business partners, and the police apprehended them and put them in the car. They're locking their door to one of these stores that they're about to open. And they put them in handcuffs, put them in the back of the car. And you know what? When they get you in custody, all bets are off. Most black folks don't think we're going to get out alive. And black men are absolutely not. And he said they kept me back there for what felt like an eternity. And my friend kept saying, "You can't do this. Do you know who he is?" And Jonathan said, "Shut up. Don't say anything." He said, it doesn't matter. These people probably hate Reverend. He said, but they shouldn't do this to anybody. And Jonathan kept his mouth shut. Oh, no. And they finally paid attention to this guy, ran Jonathan's plates, ID'd him and said, we're going to let you go. He said, "Oh, no. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to stay right here. You're going to charge me with something tonight." He said, I kept thinking about my wife, my children. I kept thinking about Mom, Dad. I thought about you all. I was like, wow, I might not see them ever again. And he said, "No, you are going to charge me with something. I'm going to sit right here. You're going to come up with something." Okay? And then he started looking for John Burge, the lieutenant commander, who had overseen the rapes of children, black boys, with cattle prods. For example, pour a Hemplo. I mean, really?
You know, don't you just love Santita? Santita will just drop without any notice and just say a little phrase in a different language just to get your attention and say, look, this is so bad. It's bad in every language all around the world. I just had to drop that in there.
No, honey. Okay, Miss Portuguese or French.
I have to run.
I love you all. Does anyone have anything else they want to say?
Thank you.
Anybody? Keith Lamar, Reverend Dr. Yuri?
You know, like I said, I'll just, you know, in the words, you know, keep hope alive and that we do good things. And make sure that every day go out there and try to put your best foot forward every day, because at the end of the day, it is a fight, and we can't have people coming to you saying, well, you know what, I think I'm going to lose. That's not the mentality we should have, because who cares? You have to fight. The game is to fight, okay? And
absolutely.
Hopefully our children can, you know, come up from that.
Well, you know what? Thank you for that, because we have to keep on fighting. You have to keep on fighting, and keep on marching. You have to do it publicly, and you have to also. There's a legal strategy as well. I mean, you have to sit with Senators Duckworth and Durbin. No question about that. That's great, but the reason they will take your meeting is because of the people you lead in the streets. Make no mistake, you don't lead this fight from the suites. It's led from the streets. So let's get on our marching shoes and get going. Okay, you ain't gonna cute your way into freedom. It does not work. You're gonna have to wade through the water, and the water has crocodiles in it, mud, and everything else. You have to do all of that. You're gonna have some days where you're not gonna eat. You're gonna have to look for a place to relieve yourself, a place to sleep. All of that. That's what the freedom costs. And if this is going to stop, we're the ones who are going to have to stop it. Nobody's going to stop this for us. What Chaparral did not tell you was that there is footage, it took her a year to get it, of her son on his knees begging these police officers for help as they surrounded him and let him die. Huh? Oh my gosh. Oh, wow. Thank God for that child who pulled out her phone and when she saw George Floyd. She knew this wasn't going to end well. She sent her 9-year-old cousin into the store. No, you go inside, because I know where this is going. She was 17. She was a child. She was a child. She shouldn't have seen it, let alone the 9-year-old. She shouldn't have had to see that. But you know what? She shouldn't have the lived reality that let her know that this was going to happen. So, everybody, let's get this together. I love you all. Love you all. Thank you. Thank you. Paul, let me speak with you a quick second as soon as we get off the air. And I am out of here, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow at Jonathan Jackson's meet and greet at 82nd in Princeton. We're going to have a good time tomorrow. And just keep hope alive, everybody. And we can change the world. Remember that. Love you. God bless. Thank you all for everything today.